Hi, I'm JP.
And I'm Adam.
I've never seen Lost.
I have.
I'm told that it's good.
I liked it.
I'm told that it made sense.
Sort of.
But we're watching it out of order.
So it definitely won't make sense.
But it might still be good. Since we won't expect it to make sense, we'll still be able to appreciate each episode on its own merits as a 1-hour story.
Sometimes 2 or 3.
As opposed to just a fraction of an ongoing, sprawling, and increasingly complex tangle of relationships, personal stories, mysteries, mythologies, experiments, social dynamics, unnatural disasters, unanswered questions, and hot tropical hookups.
Are you okay?
I'm not sure.
Because you lost me a little bit there at the end.
Well, good, because I've been lost since the beginning. We're lost on Lost.
Welcome, everybody, to Lost on Lost. I am Adam Busher. I'm joined, as always, by JP Russell.
Hello.
Today, we are talking about One of Them, the 14th episode of Season 2, and the 39th episode overall. Our centric character is Saeed Jarrah. One of Them takes place on the 58th day after the crash of Oceanic 815. JP.
Yes.
You ready to do that recap?
Yes.
Hit it.
One of Them is about all-around hunk and Saeed the tool man Jarrah as he gets his hands dirty with a little cross-examining of some witnesses. We find out more about Saeed's troubled past, and we find out that he was redeemed by American capitalism and bombs. We are introduced to the tragic hot air balloon accident victim Henry Gale from Minnesota. Sawyer and Hugo go on an adventure to see how many species of the world's 100 poisonous frogs lived on the island. My sweet baby boy John Locke struggles with his alarm clock, and the writers keep finding something for Michelle Rodriguez to do. Our guest today, well, actually, I'm not sure how I should introduce you, because I know you as Finch, but that's not your God-given name. Our esteemed guest, how would you like to be introduced?
You know, I go by everything and anything now, so however you want to.
I'm going to just keep calling you Finch then.
I mean, if you don't call me Finch, you'll probably slip up throughout this whole episode and call me that anyway, so it might get confusing if you don't.
I mean,
for the audience at home that didn't go to college with us, we're speaking with Josh Finch Seward.
Yes.
But yeah, we've known him as Finch for years now. Probably more than a decade for me, at least. Maybe longer for you even, JP.
Finch, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do?
I am a visual effects producer. Technically, right now, I'm not doing anything because of COVID, but normally I work in visual effects and post-production for TV, occasionally films, but usually TV shows.
Awesome. So did you watch Lost when it was on during its original run?
I picked it up in the second season. I think I actually watched reruns this summer after the first season aired and was like, oh, this show's pretty sweet. And came to school, I was friends with my roommate, and he was like, dude, have you heard of the show Lost? We should totally watch it. It's pretty sweet. So I started watching it the second season, but yeah, and then I watched it right up until the end.
Okay, very good. What sort of stuff do you normally watch? I mean, is sort of the Lost style show kind of your jam, or what kind of things do you normally find yourself watching?
Yeah, I watch that. You know, I feel like I watch all the quote unquote prestige shows.
Sure.
You know,
Snob.
Yeah, because I'm a fucking hipstery Hollywood douchebag type. Yeah, so I watch all those shows. I recently finished, finally, Mr. Robot. So yeah, dramas, things like that. I also am going through Community again, so I do like sitcoms as well, because why not?
It's kind of interesting because Mr. Robot is heavily serialized. Having watched television with you, I know that you like serialized shows more than episodic television. Mm-hmm. But Community is sort of semi-serialized half-hour comedy. So it's no surprise there that that's also in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Do I watch like a half-hour comedy No, not really.
I was gonna say, 'cause you're a fan of The Good Place too.
Yep. All those half-hour sitcoms are all pretty heavily serialized, week-to-week storytelling. So yeah, I like serialized stuff.
Okay. Very good. You want to get into it?
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Let's do it. One of Them originally aired on February 15th, 2006. It was written by Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse, and directed by Steven Williams. We got like the big three of Lost at the helm of this episode. I've talked about Steven Williams before. He started out just directing a little bit here and there. He went on to become a co-executive producer of the show, directing, I think, 20-something episodes, maybe more.
Yeah, it was a lot.
And then, of course, Damon Lindelof, the co-creator, along with J.J. Abrams and that other dude, whoever he was. And then Carlton Cuse, of course, coming on a little bit later, one of Damon's primary writing partners on Lost. Lindelof wrote a few episodes without Carlton, but I think almost every episode Carlton wrote, he wrote with Damon Lindelof. So I mean, we got some Lost heavy hitters here to make up the creative team to get us going, and it shows.
I was just about to say the same thing.
Compared to what we've had to suffer through the last couple of this episodes of this podcast.
Yeah, this is we briefly touched on this before we started recording, but just getting done with this, I quickly just went into the other room and was telling my girlfriend, I'm like, damn, this was a really good episode of the show. And it's easy to see where when you have episodes that are sort of this strong, even as just like an independent story, you can see how easy it is to get sucked into a show like this.
Exactly.
Just picking it up randomly. You could just turn on this episode and be like, what the hell is this show about? Yeah, I'm going to watch this.
Yeah. Saeed became a fan favorite pretty early in the show, and you can see here in season 2, and it's like, yeah, okay, they're leaning into it. It's like, we're going to give him some real meaty, deep kind of like backstory and like heavy dark shit that his psyche is wrapped up in, and it's just like
and he's such a good looking man.
He is handsome for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I should have Googled this ahead of time, but is he going on to do anything else?
He's been in a handful of things since. I think what most people would recognize him from outside of Lost is maybe The English Patient. He played Kip in that. Otherwise, he was in Planet Terror. Half of the Grindhouse thing.
Yeah, that's unfortunate because like there's a lot of moments, and we'll get into this, where he's doing some pretty intense emotional acting, and he's pulling it off perfectly, and he should be in more stuff.
Well, because that's right in the middle of his big emotional arc with him, and I don't know, JP, you're watching this all for the first time, right?
Yes, and out of order.
Yes. So, I mean, do you watch the last time on type things going into each episode?
No, I specifically don't, so I'm more in the dark.
Okay.
I know that his pretty blonde girlfriend got fucking iced at some point.
Yes, yeah. So, like, this is kind of dealing with that emotionally and stuff, but it doesn't come up too, like, it's not like a point they make to say, like, oh, he's acting like this because of this in the episode, but it's kind of, a lot of it is some of the fallout from that, I'm sure, so.
Yeah.
It looks like he's done a pretty decent chunk of television since Lost, but not a lot of film work. It looks like he was in Sense8, did 11 episodes of that, something called Instinct. Once Upon a Time in Wonderland, he played Jafar. So looks like he's, I mean, he's probably not starving, but yeah, one of them. We'll talk more about why we like this episode so much closer to the end. Let's talk about what actually happened in one of them. I have some notes, but like as I was watching it, I found myself just getting sucked in so much more easily than I was when like we were watching like What Kate Did and like All the Best Cowboys, and I was just like, while I was waiting for those episodes to end, I was like, oh man, I want to watch the next Saeed episode. And then I realized I wasn't taking any notes because I was just watching it and enjoying it.
I was very intently Googling a lot of military stuff as we spent a lot of time in the Gulf War, because I was like, oh, is that the right era, like, piece of equipment? And they actually did a really good job in this episode.
All their budget for the Iraq scenes went to their research, because I can tell you, I have notes about those scenes.
Oh, I was hoping you would.
Finch, you asked me earlier, did you give me this episode on purpose? And I was like, no, it's just a dumb fucking luck that you are a VFX producer and we're having you guest on an episode for which my only vivid memory prior to rewatching was the pretty horrible VFX transformation of what I'm assuming is a parking lot in Honolulu into the side of a Kuwaiti highway.
I don't know if you guys remember the old Command and Conquer video games from like the early 90s, and they had those fully acted videos with the terrible CGI, like everything but the people they were like shot in front of a green screen, and that
Isn't
shot,
Tim Curry one of the talking heads in that?
I think he is in one of them, but
or is that Red Alert? I don't know. Anyways,
but that first shot with the helicopter flying past, I felt like I was playing that video game as like whatever, a 12-year-old kid on my parents' computer, because like those graphics were just horrendous. Like you can tell they had a TV budget for some stuff that they wanted to do much more CG type stuff.
The not to jump too far ahead, but the scene at the end when he's talking to our CIA friend, and they're in front of like the burning oil fields, which it's weird that they're pulling out and the oil fields are still on fire. But there was Roger Deakins, famous cinematographer.
Never heard of him.
Was shut up. See how many times I can talk about him in the span of this podcast. To another.
I'm surprised that this is the first time you've mentioned Roger Deakins in the podcast.
Listen, there's a poster of him right behind my webcam, so I can just look into his eyes all the time. But, he shot Jarhead, and
Love Jarhead.
There's some story about how another cinematographer was like, oh, how was it shooting in Iraq? And he's like, we didn't shoot in Iraq, we were Kuwait or whatever, we shot, in Paramount Studio number 7 or whatever, because, he understood lighting, and, he has this vision, and the oil field's on fire, and I feel like the guy who shot this episode was like, I want to do that, and then the budget department was like, you have $10, and he was like, okay.
Yeah. There was some lighting things they could have probably done to make it look a little better, but
yeah, make it darker. That hides a lot of stuff.
Yeah, everything was very brightly lit, you could see everything.
Yeah.
So as we've now just made abundantly clear, the episode opens in Kuwait during the First Gulf War. Saeed and some Republican Guard soldiers are shredding and burning. They're getting ready to surrender.
I was gonna say the commander yells, "Keep shredding, you cowards," which is exactly what I yell every time I am at Planet Fitness, and that's why I'm not allowed back at Planet Fitness.
I thought it was funny that he yelled "keep shredding," and then they cut to a shot of a dude throwing stuff in a fire.
Right.
It's
indoors.
Yeah,
keep shredding or burning or whatever.
Yeah, that was good editing on their part.
Yeah.
But yeah, whatever they're getting rid of doesn't last long, because all hail the conquering heroes come bursting in the door. The best, biggest, and brightest military on the face of the planet kicks in the fucking door, and they're just like, knock it off. No more shredding.
What? Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was like, what restraint for them to not just kick in the door and start blasting? Like, again, oh boy,
this is a TV show.
Well, it's they kick in the door and do the most American thing of just being like, "Where's your commander? Did you know one of these guys spoke English?" And then they just yell it again louder.
That's how you speak. That's how when you're deployed overseas and you don't speak the language, if you just increase your volume, that makes you easier to understand. Like, obviously,
slower and louder at all times.
Yes.
I had Team America, the song from that movie, just playing in my head that entire scene.
We're here to free you, throws a grenade through the window.
We get a very brief view of I don't know if you recognized him, Finch, but Theo Rossi, an actor who went on to star in a show that Finch and I watched a lot of, Sons of Anarchy. Went on to play Juice Ortiz in that, and then he was in Luke Cage recently.
Yes, yeah, he was in Luke Cage. I recognized him, but I couldn't recall why I recognized him. Mm-hmm. And then when the credits popped up, I was like, wait, when was Theo Rossi? It was like that dawning realization, because I was like, that guy looks so familiar to me. Yes, I did notice him, but
I was like,
took me a minute.
When they have a guest star come in that I like or I've seen before, but this time he didn't have much to do. He was basically just there to say lines. Like, there was not much else going on. But good to see him back in the day, back before Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah.
Saeed's immediately recruited to do some translating by...
Yeah.
Did you recognize him, JP?
Yeah, as well... So, at first I yelled the Kurgan from the Highlanders.
No, not that guy.
What?
No, the first guy that he talks to. The guy who pulls him out of the room. You didn't recognize him, did you?
Oh, no. Not a clue.
That was not Colonel, likely Master Sergeant / Sergeant Major Sam Austin, who we just saw in What Kate Did just a few weeks ago.
That was him?
Yeah.
Oh.
So
did not catch that at all.
They're out there weaving that webbing it up.
Yeah, that's wild. Well, he's a Sergeant First Class at the time, so he's only got 2 ranks to go before he makes Sergeant Major and is working at a recruiting station. So, nope, I totally missed it. That was him.
His career is stunted by his efforts here to enlist a Republican guardsman as a translator.
Yeah.
Actually, it's interesting that you bring that up because I thought that, like, I remember thinking that is something Lost does pretty well in general, is like they'll have a lot of these really minor characters in one person's story, and they will pop up in a completely unrelated other person's story in like a totally different time in their life. And I did always enjoy, I didn't always catch them when I was watching it originally, but I did always enjoy being like, oh, it's that guy who did that thing like 3 episodes ago or 5 episodes ago or whatever.
Yeah, they were almost like Easter eggs, kind of like because they could have put anybody in this position of authority here, but they decided it was like, hey, you know what? We've already got a supporting character we've established as a military guy. It's like, let's get this guy back. And yeah, so sure enough, at this time, Sergeant First Class Sam Austin. What do you guys want to talk about from here? We kind of covered the cold open.
Should we just go through the Gulf War timeline?
Let's do that, yeah.
So Saeed is trying to protect his commanding officer and gets caught in a bit of a lie, saying that, you know, he left and that his commanding officer isn't actually his commanding officer. And then they use Saeed as an interpreter to try and find out information about where a downed helicopter pilot is.
Yes, his lie is exposed. He tries to protect his commanding officer Tariq by saying he bugged out already. He went to a different town or whatever, and then Sergeant Austin is like, "Oh yeah, that other town. Actually, check it out. Here he is. We know you're lying, so help us out."
The one thing that I wanted to, because I'm gonna get on a lot of military stuff. When Saeed is in the detainee area, there's all sorts of guys with guns inside the fence. Detainee ops, you don't have weapons inside the fence line. You can have people with weapons outside the fence line, but they're just like, we got guns all over the place.
It's probably because if they went past the wire, they would actually just be in a topiary because they covered up whatever that was with shitty Kuwaiti VFX. Because they were probably just in an alley in Honolulu somewhere.
Yes, that's true.
But yeah, so like he goes in there and we see Saeed exhibiting an amount of loyalty here because he's reticent to push too hard against his commanding officer. His commanding officer is just goading him too. It's just like, what are you doing? Like you're a dog. You're a traitor. You should try and steal that guy's gun and kill everybody here. Kill as many of these American soldiers as you can before they kill you. He's very much like exhibiting this, like trying to flex some sort of authority over him. And it seems like at first the Saeed is actually kind of cowed by it, and I think that speaks to his loyalty.
Well, and it's one of the, like, he's also covering for his officer because the guy's saying all these, you know, things that are pretty reckless to say when you're an enemy prisoner of war.
Yeah, or if they had a translator there that wasn't a Republican guard who was CIA or State Department or whatever, they'd be like, he's actually telling you all to go fuck yourselves.
Right. And now we're gonna just start waterboarding you for the next 9 hours. So yeah, Saeed's trying, you know, even though he's not doing what his commander wants, he's still trying to help him out. Yeah. And, you know, he's already seeing that how his commander is handling the situation is not the best course of action.
It's a good way to get yourself shot.
He's like 23 in this scene, I think he says later on in the episode, right?
Something like that.
He's pretty young. So I mean, you know, that's pretty intelligent for someone that young, you know. I mean, if you've been basically trained to do one thing your entire life, or not your entire life, but I mean, it sounds like Saeed's father was, you know, a war hero of sorts, and so he probably basically lived in a very militarized lifestyle his whole life. To like kind of go against his commanding officer like that, I feel like is kind of telling about who he is as a character too.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. My dad was in the Navy and my childhood was just kind of like Sergeant Bilko. So
we're going to take a quick break here so everybody can go rent Sergeant Bilko because nobody's seen that. And
oh man, with Steve Martin, it's not good.
ringing endorsement. But yeah, so between Saeed's inability to go against his commander to protect, he's trying to protect him. He's, you know, whatever. He gets passed off from Sergeant Austin, who I'm assuming has better things to do. He's preparing his resume to work at the recruiting office. They pass him off to Mr. Krabs, right?
Excuse me, the Kurgan.
Also, the head guard from Shawshank State Penitentiary. Clancy Brown has been in 1,000 things, and it's so great.
I was out in Fort Meade, and we went to Arlington National Cemetery, and I went one way, and my buddy Thompson went another way, and he met Clancy Brown at Arlington Cemetery, and I just like saw a bunch of gravestones and was sad. He had an arguably much better time at Arlington than I did.
I love Clancy Brown. I like everything. Like he's got such a recognizable voice. He's got such a good look. Like it's hard to for me to think of him as a character actor, because the second I look at him, I'm like, Clancy Brown. That's Clancy Brown, and I'm not like, that's whoever he is in this movie. But I know that doesn't happen to everybody else. Most people.
No,
it
happens. It happens to everyone. It happens to everyone. Even his voice acting, because he does a lot of voice acting.
Yeah, he's done some DC stuff too.
He was Surtur in Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
But if I see a cartoon or CGI character and I hear his voice, I'm just like, that's Clancy Brown. Even in his voice acting,
because that's Clancy Brown, and I'm so happy he's here.
Yes,
he's awesome.
Yes.
But yeah, this is another instance of we've talked about this in previous episodes. I'm sure we're going to cover it again. This is an instance in which the writers neglect to introduce us to this character. Throughout the entire episode, we don't catch his name. I know his name. It's Joe. But he's this mysterious dude, and maybe the writers are like, we're gonna. I think chronologically we've seen him before. Podcast wise, we haven't, but I think if you're watching Lost in order, I think you've run into
like a smart person.
Yeah, I think you've run into one Kelvin Joe Inman before.
Yeah, I mean, but even just within the context of this episode, you just guess he's CIA or something of that effect, and not knowing his name probably is how he wants it to be.
If you're watching it with a trained eye, like a true Lostie, you will see that the video that he plays for Saeed says property of the DIA. He's not CIA. He's DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency. He's military, not civilian. So stick that in your pipe and smoke it.
I stopped listening to you, and I'm trying to think of other things that DIA could stand for. And it's just dick and ass. Which is not good. You don't need a whole agency for that, but I'll come up with something else. Give me to the end of the episode.
The thing about the DIA is that the only reason I even know it exists is because several years ago I was writing a Cold War scenario for a role-playing game that I was playing with some friends of mine, and I wanted to have more institutions that people could be part of instead of the CIA. And I researched, and I was like, oh, the defense, it's a military version of the CIA. And after I did all that research, I was like, I don't know why these are two different things, but it doesn't matter to me anyway.
DIA, Dharma is aight.
Perfect. Well worth the wait.
Yep. Don't worry, guys. I got it in before the end of the episode. We're good. We're good.
You know what, though? You bring up a good point. Dharma is all right.
Aight.
So Joe goads Saeed into he's flipping the switch. Saeed is he's gonna stand tall, he's gonna be loyal, but then Joe's like, hey, FYI, your boss just sarin gassed your entire village, and everybody you knew and love is dead from sarin, and that's enough for Saeed. Saeed's like, okay, well now I'm ready for a little vengeance. This guy was being a dick before, and now he's a chemical warfare terrorist dude, and I'm done.
Well, and that's when he plays the tape, not to get too serious, but when there was footage in Syria recently of civilians getting gassed, I had seen some of that, and that's horrific footage, which I don't ever want to see again. But then you have the three options. One, showing terrible footage, which they're not going to do on ABC.
Right.
Two, you can do a really bad reenactment, which just don't. Yeah. Or three, you let a very talented actor just sort of stare off camera and let this wave of emotions come over him, and that tells all the story that you need. And just in a moment like that, you know exactly what he's watching on that screen, which I think really speaks to his acting ability.
Yeah, for sure. He goes through a real reliving of that moment,
right.
And we don't have to see what happened because we can see it all just in his face, and he kills it there in that scene and throughout the whole episode, really.
Yep.
So he goes from there. Kelvin Joe gives him a toolbox. He's like, here are some things for you to use on this guy. And it's like, it's about time. Let's get into some enhanced interrogation techniques.
I wrote in my notes when he hands him the box, well, after I wrote what's in the box, right. I wrote, it's probably a hammer. And then the first thing he fucking pulls out is a hammer, which made me so happy.
He brings that box in there, and Tariq just continues to goad him. He's like, "Yeah, you're not gonna do anything to me. Whatever. You should take that. There's a bag in it." He's like, "You should take that bag and tape it around your head and kill yourself, so you can die with what little bit of honor you have left." And then he starts fiddling with the pliers, and he's like, "You can't tell me what to do, and I hate you now because of this tape that I just watched." Like, it's go time. And then this is another thing, a good instance of the less is more type thing, because he doesn't even touch him in the scene. We cut away, and then the next time we cut back to him, Saeed just exits the room, and he hands the box back to Kelvin Joe, and he's like, "Here's your answer. This helicopter pilot's already dead. They buried him. I can tell you where the body is." And then as he hands him the box back, his hands are just covered in blood. And it's like, again, they wouldn't show it on ABC, but like, that was just as effective storytelling, if not more effective, than us seeing him just wail on this dude.
Which brings me to a new segment that I wanted to start for the show, torture tool time. So Finch, as you are our guest for the day, put in this same situation, which torture tool would you use on your former commanding officer first? There was the sticky thing, and then the clampy thing, and a hammer and a bag. What's your go-to when it comes to torture tools?
My go-to is usually like a piece of wood that you stick under the fingernail and then like push it in further. Like that one just gets to me every time. So I think I'd have to use that.
Ouch.
Okay, and this has been the final installment of our segment, Torture Tool Time. Thanks for never coming back on the show, Finch. I'm not going to sleep well tonight. The fuck, Finch?
Oh, God.
He didn't pull that out of the box. That wasn't an option, Finch. You've been thinking about this.
Anytime there's a torture scene and they use that, I'm like cringing right now. The audience can't see me, but like I am cringing just thinking about it. So if I have to do that to someone, that's clearly the most effective method.
Don't they do that in Audition?
Not to belabor this point, but I have memories of, in an episode of Lost, which we have not seen yet, Saeed casually sitting on the beach sharpening bits of bamboo because he's got some other answers he needs in that episode as well, and he's gonna go after him. after the torturing, whatever, it's time to bail. Like, we've come in, we've liberated Kuwait. We're not gonna help rebuild infrastructure or depose a violent and evil tyrant in the country next door. We're just gonna leave.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
I'm sure it'll be okay. Like,
it'll be fine.
But this is the instance of the worst, in my opinion, the worst VFX in the episode, when Joe drops him off on the side of the highway. Joe takes a moment here, and he puts a little button on sort of Saeed's journey in this few days here in the Gulf War. Just like, one day in the future, you're gonna need an answer. Now you have the tools to be able to get that answer. And then he gives him like $500, and he's like, "Hey, see you later."
But why drop him off in the middle of nowhere? What is the...
They can't, because they can't go. I'm sure that it was the border or something.
Okay, so leave him wherever you left from. I mean, my man's, he doesn't have a water source on him. He could just die of dehydration out there.
No, he can't, because he has $500 American.
Oh, okay. I hope somebody with bag soda comes by.
Hey, this is like 90 whatever.
91, 92, something like that.
Yeah, like $500 is worth so much more than it is now.
Thanks, Obama.
Inflation has not run amok yet. I don't know. That's probably not true at all.
A couple recessions later.
I was like 7. I don't know. I don't know the value of a dollar then.
Let's see. 'Cause I think that's pretty much it for the Gulf War.
That's about it. Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is an instance of I think we talked about this This is actually the only thing that you, me, and James agreed on from All the Best Cowboys. It was like the flashback of this episode is a really great little 15, 20-minute short film here. Like, this is a really good story. And that was, like, unlike All the Best Cowboys, where that was the only redeeming part of the episode.
Right.
We're going to now talk about what happens on the island, which is also a great little short film. And these two things run parallel because we're getting the explanation of Saeed's, where he acquired these tools when he's going to deal with Henry Gale here.
The first thing that happens is Michelle Rodriguez comes up and asks, "Where's Jack?" Again, everybody wants to know where fucking Jack is. Oh my God. Do something for yourselves, people.
Hey, I got a note here about that same thing. Ana Lucia walks up and says, "Where's Jack?" Saeed answers, "Why?"
Saeed knows what's up.
Yeah, Saeed fucking gets. He's like, "You don't need Jack. I'm here. I'm the man. You talk to me."
This episode did remind me that, like, just anytime Jack shows up, he screws up things for everyone else. Like, everyone else has plans that they're doing, and Jack's like, "No, fuck your plans. My plans are the only important ones."
That, and anytime anybody asks a question, the question is answered with another question. Almost always. Nobody just answers it. Like, this could have been a much different episode if Ana Lucia walks up and he's like, "Where's Jack?" And Saeed's like, "Probably at the hatch, I think." And she's like, "Okay," and then she wanders off.
Yeah. I don't know.
But the answer to why is there's some woman traipsing around in the jungle, and Ana Lucia is like, "Let's go check it out."
Okay, so I have a question about this woman, Danielle.
Yeah.
Who has a real sloppy machete tied around her belt.
Yeah.
Is her last name Russo?
Yeah. Danielle Russo.
Okay, because Russo was mentioned later, and I just had Russo ? I assumed that they were the same person, but,
We'll find out more about Danielle Russo as we watch more season 1 episodes, but yeah. Chronological viewers are fairly familiar with her at this point.
Okay.
The two of them have some history, and they go over a little bit here without being too, like, expository about it. Not right in this moment, but in the episode. Like, Jack and Locke talk a little bit about, they touch on the stuff that had happened between Saeed and Danielle in the past, but she's caught someone, and so she was gonna come find Saeed, but, like, Saeed came and found her, and they're like, "Hey, come check it out." She passes off her rifle to him as, like, a sign of trust, which we come to find out in a couple minutes doesn't really matter, because she's got a fucking crossbow. Like...
Hell yeah, she does.
Like here, in case you don't trust me, here's my rifle. I have a secret crossbow.
Also, and I know it's just being nitpicky, but that rifle was awfully clean for one that's being traipsed around in the jungle all the time.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, if maybe she takes care of her weapon. It's a tool.
She's meticulous.
Yeah, and it'll last you a long time if you take care of it. And she knows this, or whatever. There's a dude in a net. JP, you and I already met this dude.
I've never met Henry Gale from Minnesota. What are you talking about?
Okay, so you already know who Henry Gale is.
Yeah,
coming into this episode.
We've met Ben before.
The third episode we did was Man Behind the Curtain, which is the first Ben-centric episode.
Okay.
So we know all kinds of shit about fucking Henry Gale from Minnesota.
I was curious how much I could say. Just because I, know who he is going into it. Yeah. But yes, okay. Good to know.
I think this is this is Ben's first appearance on the show, chronologically.
Yeah, like, this is the first time you see him, and you're, like, confused as hell. Like, who is this guy?
Yeah, because, like, if you haven't seen Man Behind the Curtain, you're like, oh, there's some others. Like, is he, like, you don't legit know. Is he a survivor from some other crash? Is he another whatever? But unlike the audience, Saeed has the opportunity and the ability to figure it out. And he probably would have just... I'm gonna blame this on Danielle because Saeed cuts him loose and he starts to run away. Saeed probably would have just, like, caught him and grabbed him and questioned him out here in the woods.
Right.
Had Danielle not shot him in the back with a crossbow.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with that because, like, my man's been in a tent in a net all night. Mm-hmm. He's not gonna be running anywhere super quick just from like
his
being
legs
contorted.
Are probably asleep, like
right. And while he's running, I better shoot him with a homemade crossbow that I'm so accurate with. I can, like, get him between the collarbone.
Yeah.
Like,
just above the lung, misses all the arteries and all the good stuff in the shoulder there, just like.
Yeah. And it, for some reason, knocks him out, which.
Maybe. Well, I mean. Ben's not the most physically robust character. Maybe he just
That's fair. Okay.
So he's been shot, and they got to deal with that. So Saeed drags him back to the hatch.
Oh, they didn't wrap the wound first. If you have something protruding from someone and you need to move them, you need to wrap and secure the thing that is poking out of them. Oh God. Welcome to JP Complains About First Aid, another segment on Lost, the podcast for your ears.
This is not the first segment of this. You've covered this when they've done tourniquets. And
well, maybe someone's listening to this podcast out of order.
I'm fucking here for it. I want you to continue to rag on them for their shit first aid, because God's honest truth, every single one of them we should not still be watching these survivors 50 days after their crash. They should have all died of dehydration, starvation, various blood loss, head trauma, heroin withdrawal.
But hey, the dehydration thing, they have plenty of cutaway shots of them filling up old plastic bottles in a disease-ridden waterfall in the middle of the jungle. So they get enough water. They just shit it all right back out.
See, Finch fucking gets it. Thank you, Finch.
Finch gets it. Big Daddy John Locke and Jack don't show up in this episode for almost 15 whole minutes. And God, what a beautiful 15 minutes that was.
My sweet baby boy John Locke's just taking a midday nap.
When Locke showed up, I was like, okay, yeah, I mean, like, Locke's a big deal. Like, but I remember that the principal cast isn't in every episode.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I fucking hope this is one of those episodes where I don't have to deal with Jack today. But Jack fucking wanders in behind Locke not 40 seconds later. I'm just like, oh, okay. This episode was going so well, and now I'm gonna have cutaways from Saeed to Jack and Locke arguing about
Yeah, all progress just kind of comes to a halt whenever Jack's around. He's like, hey, I'm going to save this dude's life. No, that's great. Now, for some reason, that makes my opinion on this situation matter more, I feel like. Yeah, no, just keep with the Band-Aids, my boy, but just...
Because Locke comes in and he's for it. He's like, okay, yeah, Saeed's got some questions he wants answered. I don't know who this dude is. And so Locke's like, yeah, fucking talk to him while he's injured and barely whatever.
Yeah.
And then Jack wanders in, he gets all Geneva Convention, and it's just like... I was really, really hoping that he would just come in and fix it and be like, okay, guys, I got other stuff to do, and then just, like, leave.
Yeah.
Is there a reason, I cannot for the life of me remember, but is there a reason why Jack is, like, considered the leader of everyone? Because, like, there's so many other cast members who have real-world skills. Yes. Like, I don't remember why Jack just becomes the leader. He's a terrible leader.
I think it's because nobody really steps up to do it, and so he just does it, like in the pilot or whatever, in the first few episodes.
Oh, yeah, I think right after they crash or something, he's the only one who's like rescuing people, or I don't know.
Like he's a doctor, and that's a pretty important thing when you're trying to survive.
Right,
on
like he's
an
already
island.
got some authority in the fact that he is running around saving lives, and so that automatically in pretty much everybody else's eyes puts him at the top of the heap. And so I think he's so often is he a bad leader, but like there's a part of his broken psyche that's like, I'm glad that everybody looks to me, man.
Yeah.
I just want anyone to turn to him and be like, Jack, you need to learn to shut the fuck up when adults is talking, because he just everything comes to a screeching halt when he just decides this is the moral hill I'm gonna die on for no reason.
I made that same fucking note. Locke accuses Jack of raising an army. He's like, you're raising an army, and the only reason to raise an army is if you're going to war. This is part of war. Like Locke is like trying to get him to get on board with what Saeed's doing. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is just a TV show, obviously. Like nobody here is advocating torture as like a real life thing. No. But like as a story element in a crazy island mystery show, yeah, okay, fine. But yeah, Locke says, okay, well, yeah, you're the one raising an army, but you're gonna fight against these others according to a set of a moral code that you've put together. Like these people are already kidnapping pregnant women. They're not above hanging Charlie in the jungle, like collateral damage and stuff like that. Like Jack, you're up on this high road. Your enemy, if you are going to war with these people, they're not going to adhere to the same code that you are. So what are you doing?
Yeah, I just put in my notes when Jack starts treating him, because we hadn't got into a lot of Saeed's backstory yet with the torture, and he just says, do not untie him, and I just out loud said, fuck yeah. Like That's one of those things that
yeah.
when you're watching a really stupid character in a horror movie and they do the thing where you're like, no, don't go in the room, don't untie them, don't flip the switch. And you have a character with the voice of reason, don't untie him because I don't trust him. Like, fuck yeah, all right. We have a character that's written like a real person.
Yeah, I have this this note for that same instance, just Saeed giving out the orders here. He's ice cold. Like, he has every confidence in the things that he's telling the other people to do, whether or not they actually end up listening to him, but he knows, like, this is the right course of action. Don't untie him, and his confidence is palpable.
Mm-hmm. Jack patches up with the fucking Henry Gale. But then Locke and Saeed come up with a little side plan for Saeed to start getting some answers out of our new friend. They say, oh, we'll let him recover in the armory, but Saeed locks himself inside and is going to... He will ask the questions and starts to interrogate Ben, which is a pretty wild fucking scene.
Oh, man. I made a specific note of this. His delivery of the line, like, they go back and forth a little bit. He, like, asks him a question or two, and Ben says, or Henry says something like, you asking me all these questions? I don't get to know who you are? And Saeed flat out delivers this line, and Naveen Andrews just kills this delivery of it.
You want to know who I am? My name is Saeed Jarrah, and I am a torturer.
And, like, I legit had a moment of just chill. I was like, fuck. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and with sorry not to get all military in again, but like he goes into this room to interrogate this guy, and his knife little scabbard is empty. Like, that's proper, like, detainee, like, no, if I'm gonna beat the shit out of this guy, but I'm not gonna have anything on me that he can use against me.
Right.
Just a good little art direction thing.
The scene is so good, and we've already mentioned multiple times how good Naveen Andrews is throughout this episode.
Yeah.
But Michael Emerson's first appearance on the show here, really giving him something to work off of. Like, you put a lesser actor in here as Henry Gale, and this is just like, instead of turning into an interesting character scene, becomes just a big bully beating the shit out of some guy they found in the woods. And it's not that, and that's just as much to do with Michael Emerson.
He gives, like, when Saeed asks him a question, he gives an answer. It's very, like, conversational, but the way Michael Emerson delivers the conversational part of the line also feels rehearsed. Like, I totally get why Saeed doesn't believe his answers, you know?
Well, he starts giving these answers that are so insane.
Exactly.
Like, we crashed here. You could just say, oh, we're in a plane crash. How'd you get here? Hot air balloon. What the fuck? Like, but I mean, he does a great job at making this fake identity so specific that it's like, well, this might be real, but Saeed keeps pushing him like, no, give me the details on it. But Ben has thought about, he's either the best improv person ever, or he's like taken some time to think about this false identity.
Well, and that's what I think it was, is that he basically, like, put together a full dossier on Henry Gale, and so Ben, like, memorized everything, so he's able to conversationally answer these questions, but, like, it does feel rehearsed to me.
Like, Michael Emerson does a good job of being a, quote, bad actor.
Yes, that's, yeah.
Michael Emerson convinces us that Henry is not as slick as Michael Emerson is.
Yes.
We saw in Man Behind the Curtain already several weeks ago what a world-class manipulator Ben can be.
Oh, yeah, big time.
And I think, if I'm remembering correctly, he hits the ground running here with excellent Ben quality manipulation.
Yeah.
If I'm remembering correctly. I could be misremembering this, but I think it gets real wild. The end of season 2, like, this is about the midpoint of season 2. Season 2 in general is very good, but the second half of it going into season 3, like, there was a reason why season 3 I think had so much hype going into it, because season 2 was just like this rising comet of, like,
Just escalation.
Yeah, compelling storytelling. Then we get into season 3 and it, like, holds there for a little bit and then fucking craters and goes all over the place before it picks up again near the end of season 3.
Yeah.
Season 2 is already really entertaining, and then when you add Michael Emerson into it, it's a shot in the arm in something that didn't even need it.
Sure.
I could go on forever about Michael Emerson.
Yeah.
But we should talk about something else. Or we should finish talking about the armory so we can get to my favorite storyline of the episode, the sea plot between Sawyer
for sure.
and Hurley.
For fuck's sake. All right, so Saeed slaps him around a little bit.
Slap.
John and Jack are having a discussion about this on the outside of the door. Jack's real not happy about it, so he is threatening John, who knows the door combination, with letting the hatch timer run out if he doesn't.
And he's got those real crazy eyes when he's threatening to let that go. Like, holy fuck.
You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
That's exactly what I've written down here. Do you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Because he, in just that one moment, is so fucking maniacal. His wild, sweaty eyes just like, oh, man. I was like, all right, here's the unhinged Jack that nobody ever gets to see. If we would have saw this Jack on the beach on day one, they would have been like, we should let him go.
Drown.
Yeah. But yeah,
oh my god,
Locke still very much cares about the button, and Jack is like, you know what? I don't give a fuck about the button anymore. It's time for Jack's army, and I'm not listening to the button anymore. So let me in so I can pull Saeed off of Henry Gale, because I can hear him in there, and he's
knocking the dust off of him.
Yeah, messing him up pretty bad. And Locke, the other side of this maniacal coin, just like still really, really attached to this button, running totally on faith, no idea of what the button does, just knows he doesn't want to let it go, and he caves. He's like, okay, he opens the door for him, and he goes to punch in the button, but he doesn't quite get there in time. Oh shit.
Yeah, so apparently the countdown's sort of just like a general, like, if you can also get it before the, like, Stargate hieroglyphs show up, like, then you're good. Like, because the numbers run out, and then some symbols start showing up, and he's like, I'm just gonna see if this works anyways, and it does. It like cancels it out. So
I mean, it's a commitment to the structure of it. Like, he goes in there, he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna still finish punching in the sequence and hope it works. Like, if it were me, if I would have got over there and I would have been 4, 8, 16, 6, like he has to back up because he types it wrong. And if that was me at that computer, 4, 8, 16, and then I look up and the timer's up, and I'm like, all right, well, I fucking missed it, and then I would have stopped.
Yeah. Then you would have written in 42069 and see if the word nice comes up. Nice. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up our hatch adventure, does it not?
Make one last mention. Part of Saeed's tactics when he's in there, he exhibits a moment of vulnerability. Henry Gale punches a button there, talking about, did you lose somebody? And he starts talking about the shovelfuls and stuff like that. And I wrote here, I was like, this is a horrible time for you to have this moment of therapy, dude. But he uses it. He like rides that pendulum of reliving Shannon's death and just like uses it to like pound into Henry Gale with the force of a fucking battering ram.
Yeah, like I can't prove that any of that other stuff is a lie, but I know you saying that you buried your wife is a fucking lie. Yeah, because
I just buried Shannon,
right?
And I fucking know. I know heartbreak, and you don't.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make mention of that, even though, I mean, Shannon got fucking iced, so like that happens.
Yeah.
But it hurt our man. It hurt Saeed, which is an example of fridging here. Even though I know that Shannon had not a long, but she had her own through story arc here. But then like Shannon dying in whatever episode she ends up dying in, we haven't seen it yet. It just ends up going to serve Saeed's emotional path, which is something we should hopefully be shying away from now in more enlightened and modern times.
Yeah. Just to wrap up the storyline with Saeed, we end with him and Charlie sitting on the beach just having a bit of a conversation. And Charlie kind of has this look on his face to me like, I didn't realize we were friends. But I'm really glad that Saeed brings up this whole thing about, like, the others, they've forgotten, you know, what the others are capable of. I mean, they strung you up, Charlie, by your neck to die. And it's that whole, like, the Fast and Furious, Jason Statham kills Han, and then, like, 2 movies later, Jason Statham's just, like, part of the team, and he's at the family barbecue or whatever. But Saeed's like, dude, they just a few weeks ago tried to murder you. Yeah. You were hanging by your neck dead. Yeah. And that's something that the audience might forget about, but it's important for the continuity of these characters if you want them to be grounded and real, that they don't forget that kind of thing. And I really appreciated that.
It's another example of, like I was saying before, Locke and Jack giving out a little bit of like re-exposition about Saeed and Danielle's relationship. This is another instance here where the writers are reintroducing the audience to something that may have been lost into the memory of the viewer without it just being some sort of information dump. And just speaks to, I think, a solidly well-written script.
Yeah, and I think that helps because this is when TV was 22 episodes, 20, you know.
Yeah.
So, like, if you think about it, this is, what, midway into season 2-ish?
Yep.
Or it's 14, right?
So it's a little bit past midway.
So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff a lot of episodes that have probably happened in between all these events. And if you think about it, these these events happened, 14 weeks ago in the mind of the viewer,
Right.
Actually, the moment that he's speaking about Charlie getting strung up by Ethan, we saw that episode that happened in All the Best Cowboys Have Daddy Issues, and that was season 1, episode 11.
Yeah.
So that's actually like in the viewer's eye, probably close to a year.
Yeah.
Right.
It's days for the survivors, but the audience at home, it's like you may have forgotten. Remember when Ethan dragged Charlie into the woods and hanged him, and then kidnapped Claire for the 900 millionth time?
Christ. Do we have to bring her up? Anyways.
But yeah, like I was saying, like it speaks to, I think, a pretty well written script, save for the 8 pages that they had to add because apparently the script wasn't long enough.
Yep. On to C plot.
Oh, is that where that came from? I didn't even know that was.
I don't know why this is in there because it's obviously
it has to be.
It's a comic relief thing because I think without some sort of something like this episode's kind of fucking dark.
Yeah. Well, again,
it's got a dark resolution.
Exactly.
Sawyer's a fucking serial killer. Like he's out there murdering poor defenseless little frogs.
It's just to show that Sawyer is needlessly a dick to everyone and everything.
Yeah, and the only time that he changes that tack is when he needs something. He
Exactly.
takes a moment to stop ragging on Hurley, only just briefly enough because he's like, oh, if I keep being a douchebag to Hurley, I'm not going to get the help I need to get rid of this frog.
That I did appreciate that Hurley like very quickly stands up for himself.
Yeah.
It's not like scene after scene of him, very quick. He's like, fine, I'm fat, fuck you. Like, go tell everybody. I'm not going to sit here and be your emotional punching bag.
Yeah.
He's pretty resilient in that regard.
Yeah, Hurley just finding confidence, and even with his happy-go-lucky persona throughout, showing humanity. Like stuff does get to him, but he's not going to let Sawyer get to him forever. There's one other thing I wanted to mention in this C plot. When Sawyer walks up to Hurley and he spots him with the food stash, the frog goes off. It makes the noise. Sawyer whips around and grabs for his pistol tucked into the back of his fucking jeans. Like it's a tree frog. It's a tree frog. We find like in the audience's mind, there's no way that this thing is bigger than the palm of your hand. And then lo and behold, we find out later that, the frog is exactly as small as we all imagine. Sawyer's gonna fucking shoot him. Like, he's just gonna run into the jungle with a pistol.
Right.
And just, it's like, pew, pew, pew. Like,
Pew, pew, pew. The reason that Sawyer is sleeping so poorly has nothing to do with this frog and has everything to do that his little hut that he has on the beach, which is actually, it looks pretty well constructed.
Like
he's still just sleeping on the sand. You need to get your body off of the ground so that your body heat isn't just going into the cold sand at night. You need to create some sort of barrier, like a thermal barrier. Yeah. This is survival 101, folks.
Yeah.
Also, he's sleeping in the middle of the day. It's pretty
Excellent
clearly
point.
like the middle of the day.
Everybody else is out there working. Jin walks by with a fishing net, if Jin has found a way to be constructive. Sawyer's just still fucking napping the day away.
Sawyer does the exact same thing. Jin doesn't understand him, so he asks a question louder and slower. Guys, Sawyer is just America.
Yeah. I don't remember when Jin starts to, like, his grasp of the English language starts to, like, broaden. But I in that moment, I was just imagining to myself, I was like, no, he's totally fluent in English. He's just ignoring Sawyer. Fucking hate.
No English. Sorry.
Yes. So, yeah, on the whole, I think we liked it, right? We liked it.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a real good episode.
So, hats off to the big three: Damon Lindelof, Carlton Cuse, and Stephen Williams for putting together a very, very solid episode and treating one of the fan favorites with care. You could have done something like this backstory and done it poorly, and they did not. So
yeah, totally. Before we get into Lost on Lost, I'm going to complain about cinematography for a minute. We can cut this for time if needed.
We'll cut the rest of the episode and leave this 40 seconds here.
Yeah. All right. JP talks about cinematography. The scene with Danielle and Saeed right before they go to get Ben out of the net, they're doing a really nice thing where they're giving him sort of a hard kicker light, and it's all natural. And then they're using that same light blocked by the tree as her key. The sun is really low in the sky, and it's another one of those where they have a lot of canopy in this show, which helps a lot for just general ambience. But they're also against the clock with a lot of daylight because they were shooting a lot of the show on location. And that was a very good use of some natural light that's low in the sky, but it's very hard to shoot with because your time is limited. There's a lot of green backlight on, not on characters, but on walls in this episode. And the scene with Ben and Saeed with the interrogation and Saeed and Locke when they're talking about going into the armory for the interrogation, because they're doing interiors, the cinematographer is able to shape some really nice light based on the eye light. It looks like they were using like a 4-Bankino or some sort of strip light, and it was just nice to see that they're able to do a lot more dramatic lighting when they're indoors. That's it.
I was trying to look up the name of the cinematographer for this episode while you were talking there. Roger Deakins, he ain't, but he's doing a yeoman's job with all this stuff that you just said.
Yeah, but that first AC, there's a shot again of John Locke where he like leans in a little bit and it rolls out of focus, but it rolls back in real quick, and I'm just like, this motherfucker.
If you mention this in 10 more episodes, I think you and I have to agree that maybe this is a stylistic choice. Or we don't. We can just continue to dunk on the AC.
That's what I said about all my films in college. Troy would be like, this is out of focus, and be like, it's a stylistic choice, dude. Oh boy. Let's get into Lost MVP and Lost Forever.
Lost MVP is our favorite character of the episode, regardless of anything else they've done in any other episode, anything you might know about them this 45 minutes. Finch, who was your Lost MVP?
I mean, for this episode, it's Saeed. Just the acting, everything came together really well. And so, yeah, I mean, it was his story, so that's probably the obvious answer. But I would
you don't have to get clever with it too. Like,
right?
Yeah,
it's a super good episode.
Yeah, and it was very much on his shoulders for a lot of stuff, and it went really well, and he killed it. Yeah,
no doubt.
Yeah. Busher, your Lost MVP.
I think I got to go with my Lost MVP. Is actually, while I could very easily say Saeed just like Finch did, I want to give Henry Gale his props here.
Yeah, big time.
There's plenty to be said about monologuing and being able to perform on your own, but like real great acting comes with a great partner, and the scene between Saeed and Henry Gale, it wouldn't be nearly as good if one of them was somebody else, if it wasn't Naveen Andrews, if it wasn't Michael Emerson. So a Lost MVP this week for me has got to go to Henry Gale. Also, honorable mention to Kate for not appearing in the episode.
Oh, God damn it, Kate.
JP, what about you? What do you got for a Lost MVP?
Who the fuck do you think it is? It is 1 gallon of Dharma Initiative ranch dressing. Are you trying to survive on a desert island? Gallon of Dharma Initiative ranch dressing. Do you need an urn for your grandmother? Dharma Initiative ranch dressing. Are you looking for something to dip your deep fried cinder block into? Dharma Initiative ranch dressing, now in gallon size.
We'll keep at room temperature for 7 years.
What the fuck? I want that ranch dressing. That's some wild shit. It doesn't need to take up room in my refrigerator anymore. That's some cool shit.
Did anybody get a decent look at what Hurley was dunking in the ranch? I thought it was a mango.
Yeah, it was something like
Cheeto? That. I don't know. Finch, who is your Lost Forever? The person who we would be fine with them going away forever?
Honestly, I know people love him, but Sawyer, I don't need him bringing everything down constantly.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between like, okay, I caught this frog, I'm gonna throw it on the ground and stomp on it, and just squishing it in your hands. That's some fucking psychopath stuff.
You guys got up my ass for wanting to stick pieces of wood in people's fingernails. At least I'm not squishing innocent tree frogs.
Yeah, one doesn't like lessen the other, Finch. You're still a monster. Busher, Lost Forever.
I kind of like she didn't do anything wrong, I guess, but Rousseau,
yeah,
I guess, because like her, I don't know. Like,
she just comes in, catches a human in a net, shoots him with an arrow, and says, "Now you deal with it."
Like I know that this is kind of like classic Danielle with her traps and her weapons, but like, fuck, out here trapping humans and makeshift crossbow and just like, you're too weird. Get me to Saeed. So JP, Lost Forever.
It's not so much that I disliked it. I just think that they are lost forever. Are Jack's sleeves. He's too furious for sleeves in this episode. Walks in like goddamn hacksaw Jim Duggan, just like, hey guys, this is my beach vibe that I'm giving off now. I don't have sleeves on this shirt. So they're just lost. They're lost forever. He's probably got pants that zip off into shorts too.
How dare you? Don't you even say a bad thing about zip off pants? Because
it's just gonna be jorts and the sleeveless button-up shirt.
I wish that they were on a plane with a Levi's shipment and the only kind of pants that anybody can wear are jeans, and they're like this. It's too hot, and everybody just is wearing cutoff jeans. Every single person. If only.
That's good. That's very good.
Let's do burning questions. JP, did you have a burning question? Did you have something that was a question that was asked by this episode that was not answered that you hope is answered sometime in the future?
I do. So it's a real minor thing that's not really drawn much attention to. When we're just sort of adventuring around the hatch, there's like a lot of decor that's going on, but there was a wall that looks like the whole wall top to bottom was like drawn by children.
Graffiti,
yeah,
or the mural, or whatever
that's
it is.
the first time I've seen that. So there's like all this technology and all this like sort of like bunker vibe to it, but then there's like this huge wall of just children's drawings, and I just said, what the fuck is this? Either that or John is just a real bad artist. But I saw that and instantly wanted to know more about what happened there.
Yeah. Finch, what about you? Do you have a burning question?
Why a balloon? Like, why did he choose to around the world in 80 days his story, like, or whatever? Like, I know he was going with the eccentric rich guy story, but a balloon?
I challenge you to a race around the world. Christ, yeah.
Oh. How did you get here? The Red Baron's biplane.
Now I just wish he was wearing a scarf, too, to go along with that story. Like,
yes.
And a leather jacket. Launchpad McQuack's outfit from DuckTales.
Oh, yes. Fuck yeah.
All right, that's pretty much it, I guess.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on the show, Josh. We will talk to you again in the future for sure. If you want to come back, we loved having you this time.
It was very enjoyable. I'd love to be back.
Excellent.
Yeah.
If you at home are trying to be lost with us, please check out our next episode. We'll be watching Season 2, Episode 20, 2 for the Road.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Lost on Lost.
I'm Adam.
I'm JP.
Do you have any idea what's going on this show?
No.
Me neither. Lost on Lost is produced and edited by Adam Busher and JP Russell.
Recorded on location in Milwaukee, Wisconsin and Los Angeles, California.
Our show is hosted at Podbean. Find us there or wherever you find your podcasts.
Thanks to Danny Schmitz of Lost in a Name for our theme music.
Lostpedia and the community of contributors there.
Random.org for creating the watch order.
Check out our Facebook page, Lost on Lost, or find us on Twitter and Instagram at Lost on Lost 1.
Don't follow those jerks at Lost on Lost 2.
You can also email us at wearelostonlost@gmail.com. If you like what we're getting into here, buy us a coffee at coffee.com/wearelostonlost.
That's ko-fi.com/wearelostonlost.